Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome. Thank you. As we are all due to lockdown, we couldn't meet in person. So, of course, some of you are regular safely on Zoom anyway. So, thank you for joining once again. And we will now, before the teaching, do the refuge and the four immeasurables very conscientiously important to realize, acknowledge, and rejoice our refuge, our sense of safety in way we are able to be and think and see and know and understand and respond and not respond. Is when you are dharmically orientated, you realize how much safer and kinder and wiser and therefore thoughtful we can be, and we are much kinder to others. And these blessings and this goodness comes from our uh, common bond with the teachings of the Buddha, the fully enlightened one. So we rejoice and therefore acknowledge by renewing our refuge and commitment to practice the very core of the teachings of altruism. So let's join our hands at the heart and think, be inclusive of this endeavor for the for it will definitely have benefit to other sentient beings, not just temporarily but ultimately in a long way. So with this certitude, we do the prayers. Thank you. Oyenda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Aitere Yedha Ladama Bhavacha Adyevendala Ashare Vada Vatuvevi and Abu Dada Mahasanga Aitere Vyata Lodam Bhavacha Adyevandala Ashare Vadavatu and Abu Dadarama Zanga Aitere Vyata Lodam Bhavacha Adyevandala Ashare Vada Vatuve Mehabis happiness and the cause of happiness, may there be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering, may they never part from the happiness. No suffering, may the equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May hobbies happiness and the cause of happiness, may they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering, may they never part from the happiness there knows no suffering, may the dweller equanimity, free from her judgment and aversion to those near and far. May her peace, happiness, and the cause of happiness, may they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering, may they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering, may they dwell equanimity, free from her judgment and aversion to those near and far, God and to the intelligent and predisposition of the Chanda Dhamma agrelo and come. So welcome everyone. As you all know, we have been going through the Perfection of Wisdom writings by Rongton last 2 terms, and now this is our 3rd term. We start by looking at what the main instruction is about, and that is the quintessence of all the Buddha's teaching is the teaching of perfection of wisdom. That is even meditation, even discipline are only secondary, and they are only the means to achieve the wisdom, discerning the nature of reality as it is. Even in their teaching, Buddha says there is no greater refuge than the truth. Even refuge is so that we actually understand the truth. And so the truth is perfection of wisdom, that understand the nature of things as they are. And to do that, so Rongton says the need to realize perfection of wisdom requires lots of faith in the teachings of the Buddha that teaches the truth of how to understand suffering and its causes, and the method to bring that to an end through the realization of the truth. That's the wisdom. And having explained the necessary factors of faith and devotion in the candidate who is seeking the path, then it talks about the actual instructions is the bodhicitta. So bodhicitta is the very altruistic motivation that one endeavors to do for the benefit of others, and then it classifies the bodhicitta and its precepts into wishing bodhicitta, engaging bodhicitta, and how one secures or conceives the bodhicitta by using the 22 analogies and then practice the 6 and 10 paramitas. So that was the first part we covered. And then the second part is now, after having generated the bodhicitta, engaging and what we call the wishing and engaging bodhicitta, the main instruction is to meditate on the 3 thorough doors of liberation. That's emptiness, silencelessness, and wishlessness. That was the main instruction to understand emptiness. But in order to understand emptiness, silence, wishlessness of things, we have to first of all understand the 4 noble truths. So last week we talked about the first 2 truths: truth of suffering, truth of origin of suffering, and the truth of suffering. And particularly we went through the 8 sufferings of human beings, such as old age, sickness, and the birth and death, and parting from the loved ones, and not getting what we want, and losing what we have, and so on. So tonight we're going to still continue a little bit left over about that. So we will continue that segment. It says that in this way, from beginner's time until now, one has had to endure these four sufferings of birth, old age, sickness, and death. So now it is more than due for oneself to check if there's any reason that we should continue, allow this to continue from here onwards. Unless we really enjoy being born and dying sick so much time, we have a good reason to see what can we do. Can we do something so that this doesn't continue? So what is it? What is it? Because we talked about the truth of origin of the suffering, the truth of origin of action, truth of origin of the afflictions. So the truth of origin of afflictions, meaning why you have truth of origin of afflictions, is that we made 5 mistakes. So here this Rongton talks about what is to blame, that so much suffering have come from the truth of origin of suffering. Why the suffering has mushroomed in a kind of like a spout, like a spring water. It is not stopping. So there are 5 mistakes that we need to recognize. These 5 mistakes are one was the first is the mistaken between what is and what is not. And then second is one is mistaken between what is truth and what is not truth, false. The second one. Third is one mistaken between love and not love, no love, love and no love. See, this is a very important point. And then fourth one is where you're mistaken between what is important and what is unimportant. And the fifth one is mistaken between quality and fault. So let's look at each of those 5 one by one. First is mistaking between what is and what isn't. So that's probably very important, this one, because the mode of nature of reality of the 3 realms of existence is emptiness. And self is empty, as well as phenomena lack any independent inherent existence from their own side. So instead of seeing the emptiness of self and emptiness of phenomena, we have grasped to aggregate and then name and the labels and identity and profession and color and height and address and ethnicity as self, and therefore we have mistaken what isn't as what it is, because we are not the body, we are not the aggregate, we are not the ethnicity, but yet we develop attachment to thinking I'm this ethnicity, I'm this. Therefore we have mistaken by not knowing what is and what isn't, what self is, what self isn't. No? There is no self that it is. What isn't the self, we have mistakenly thinking it is self. We have never understood what self itself is. Self itself merely labeled, but it is not truly existing. But we didn't know that what is merely labeled, what we thought is truly existing. So that's the mistake number 1, is mistaking between what is, what isn't. Because we are mistaken with regard to self, we also mistake in regard to what the self sees of anything. Because this primary mistaker is this one. It is already mistaken about itself, then of course it's going to bound to make mistake about everything else. Because this is the king of the mistake. He already is mistaken about self, therefore it also mistaken about the other. So he grasps things that are made out of many things, produced by others, delivered by others, as mine, And because of that, he developed grasping to phenomena as mine. And so therefore, this first mistake of mistaking what is and what isn't, what is and what isn't is like one has been deceived. It is as if as if you have by mistake walked into the enemy territory, thinking it's your own friend's place. Imagine that, you walk into North Korean territory thinking it's a South Korean territory, or you walk into the you can talk about rugby clubs, maybe you can went to the you have support the Brumbies when you want to support the Sharks or whatever. So you're just completely mistaken. So therefore one is actually, instead of looking after the well-being of the spirit, one is looking after the well-being of body, for instance. So people are more looking after the body, but looking after the body is like walking into the enemy territory, because you never win the body. You have to put too much effort to the body, and you have neglected the well-being of the mind. Similarly, one has neglected the well-being of others. One has put too much priority self. So that's walking in the enemy territory, and one didn't know that one is walking in enemy territory. And only then the enemy has arrested, then one realized, how did I end up here? So that's the first of the 5 mistakes, yeah? First of the 5 mistakes. So the mode of reality of the 3 realms of existence, which is empty and devoid of self, including self, instead of seeing the emptiness of the phenomena and self, one thinks it is real, they're truly existing. By developing such grasping to the self and the phenomena, one has mistakenly realized the wrong mode of reality as correct mode of reality. So that's why one has lost our way, walked in the enemy territory, and one has been caught, and they wouldn't let us go. Just imagine that, you walked in the enemy territory, and they will arrest you. So the mistake between what is and what is not caused the mistake between what is true and false also. So what is true and false, that is the second, what is true and false. So one has been deceived by holding nirvana as false, and samsara as true and good. True. One is developing grasping to samsara. One is denying the existence of nirvana. So therefore, one should truly practice to achieve nirvana. One is denying, saying, I haven't seen. There's no future lives. So what is most important, that one should achieve the true achievement of nirvana. One is denying. Samsara, there is very, very pit of suffering. One is grasping to that is very truly. So one is attached to samsara. So this is because of the first mistake of a mistake between what is and what isn't. Therefore, one has a mistaken between what is true and what is false. So this is the second example. Is the example of the second mistake. The example of the first mistake is walking in enemy territory. Yeah, Rongton is always. This is quite really Buddhist. They give you a teaching, and they always give you an analogy, yeah? They always give you an analogy. I don't know, some of the analogies might be a little bit outdated, but once you get to the point, you wouldn't mind the analogy, The analogy is very cute, So walking in enemy territory, that's quite obvious. If you haven't had that experience, you wouldn't know what's like. They go friendly fire, yeah, friendly. Lots of people get killed in friendly fire, So, and the second analogy, second one, which is what is not mistake between what is true from what is false, is rather like a person who's misled by magical show. Yeah, he looks at the show and he thinks it's real. He thinks the magical show is real, and he therefore completely mistaken by that. So, and then that leads to the third mistake. The mistaking between what is true and what is false causes to make mistake between what is important and what is not. What is important is selflessness, bodhichitta, tolerance, compassion, forgiveness, all of that. One, instead of seeing the importance that one's defending myself, standing up for myself, proving the other is wrong, zero tolerance, and if you forgive them, they'll get it. They will do that all the time. That kind of attitude. So therefore, we therefore, what is important is patience. What is unimportant is trying to be right, trying to think you are right and others wrong. So a lot of the time, people are more eager to prove that others wrong and they are right. That's not so important. That's what he saw. The Dalai Lama says, my religion is kindness. Why didn't he say that? Because it's more important to be kind than to be right. So what is important is to be kind and compassionate. Instead, one is more right and correct. And it doesn't matter how many people have to be sort of culled on the way to prove that you are right. You wouldn't mind what people spend so much money to clear their name, they call it. So important, clear their name. Clear their name. How come their name is so dirtyable? They put so much importance clearing their name, and they wasted all of their savings. And then in the meantime, they have mind. Their name was slightly cleared, but they have become completely broken. They become broke because clearing the name is so important, so unimportant, but they were important. In the meantime, it makes them so broke. So by ignoring the importance to attaining nirvana and practicing bodhicitta, practicing patience, one has given more importance to have a good standing in samsara, to good name in samsara. So one is ignoring the ultimate aim to achieve nirvana is through tolerance, through patience, through compassion, through forgiveness. Instead, one wanted to have the worldly samsaric standing and name in these worlds. So one is therefore mistaken between what is important and what is unimportant. These 5 sets of mistakes are very, very, very revelatory if you look at it from the point of view of elucidating the truth of origin. Truth of origin is these 5 mistakes, basically five mistakes. 5 mistakes. So by ignoring these, what is important to practice, such as tolerance, forgiveness, understanding, compassion, and letting go, by ignoring those which are cause for attaining Buddhahood and enlightenment for the benefit of sentient beings, one is given more importance to the samsaric kind of standing, to your mundane, worldly kind of reputation and power, and who is right and who is wrong. So this one is similar to reversing the priority for the happiness of today alone, in place of instruction how to be happy in future lives. So people who prioritize happiness today instead of happiness in future lives or the life hereafter. So of course, most people who don't believe in future lives is not important for them. For them, future life is not important, and so this life is very important. So what is unimportant become important. What is important become unimportant. But when you practice Dharma, and if you gain some kind of some degree of, I would say, weight of the Dharma, weight of the wisdom, you will see you're able to ignore the unimportant things. Don't even talk about it. It just wouldn't go very well with them and you and anything. You rather put your effort on what is very important. So don't argue over things who's right and wrong, but what can you do to help both? That sort of thing. Amazing, really. I mean, when your meditation and practice is very good, even if somebody is very aggressive, nitpicking, and really negative to you, you just don't worry about what they say. You just important is what do you don't say. Very important. Is what you don't say and retaliate. It's more important than what they say. That's your knowing, because we only experience consequences what we do. We don't really experience consequences what other people do. See, that's a very important distinction, isn't it? If you believe in law of karma, you don't believe in the effect of what other people do to you nearly as much as what you will do to yourself. See, this is very important, isn't it? So because of that, you're not paying attention to what they did or didn't to you. You know, it's none of your business, because you can't really be able to correct them, because this is not important. Because you can't. When you try to right the wrong of others, it's unimportant. You have to recognize your own wrong, trying to right others. That's more important. Because try to right the wrong of others, you will go overstep. You will cross the boundary, cross the line yourself. People don't realize they're crossing the line themselves. What they do doesn't have any consequences, don't they, you know? Only what other people done has consequences. What they do to it have no consequences to themselves. See, that's more important. So this is exactly talking about, one doesn't look at the long-term benefit of future lives and attaining nirvana, benefit of other sentient. Like the Buddha, he knew what was important was his life is lived properly. What is unimportant was he to become another good king, another dreadful king who killed many enemies. He saw that very unimportant, like his father would have liked him to do. That's why he renounced the unimportant one. Yeah, he adopted what is important to walk the path of a bodhisattva, and risk all the blame and criticism he faced, and then went in the forest and did his meditation. Of course, not many people can do that, but he's one who dared to do what is most important one. The others, even King Ashoka. King Ashoka spent much of his life in doing unimportant things, like he's killing all the enemies as well as his brothers. He became so power thirsty, greedy, that he killed not only his enemies, not only become victorious, even his brothers and families were killed, except his two children, the son and daughter. Later on, then he realized he has been doing all these unimportant things. He prioritized all the unimportant things and didn't neglect all the important things. When he met Upagupta, the fourth patriarch after the Buddha, he completely changed. And then to purify his negative karma, then because Ashoka came 100 years later after Buddha, then he wanted to exhume all the Buddhist stupas, and then he used all the relics from the stupas and to be distributed, to build 84,000 stupas all over his subcontinent, so that he can purify his negative karma. He himself become a monk to purify all his sins, and then he did that, and he became the very famous Buddhist emperor, because he realized that important thing has been nearly neglected, and he did it at the last minute. And then his son Mahinda went to Sri Lanka, so did his daughter. These two become very instrumental to spread Buddhism to Sri Lanka, because he came to heed these teaching, what is important and what is unimportant. All this killing all the enemies, conquering other neighboring territories, he thought was great, triumphing at the beginning. Later on realized it's so unimportant, so unnecessary. And then he gave up all the unimportant things, and he picked up the neglected important one for the benefit of Dharma. And he made edicts or pillars of Buddhism every place where the Buddha traveled, and waved texts to the locals, asked them to look after those temples. Today, even in 21st century, there are still some such pillars standing on those places. And in India has adopted Ashoka's symbol, the 64-spoked wheel of Dharma, as a symbol of Indian national flag. So that's what he put that important. He put the importance of securing Dharma than his power-hungry activities. He renounced the unimportant. He adopted the important. This is what he was talking about. Yeah. So So therefore, one needs to say that from here onwards, I will not prioritize the unimportant. I'll instead prioritize the important, because if you don't know what is and what isn't, you wouldn't know what is true and false. If you don't know what is true and false, you wouldn't know what is important and what is unimportant. And if you don't get to correct these first three mistakes, then the fourth mistake is you would be mistaken between knowing what is quality and what is fault. So people will spend more time gathering, hoarding, collecting worldly material possessions. So that is actually fault. That is actually burden. But most people are working so hard to increase their burden, and so therefore committing too much to always to become enslaving oneself to chasing after material possessions and the worldly gains is confusion between what is quality, what is false. Because one is actually working so hard to increase one's burden. Because you can't take anything with you when you die, but you have to carry all the negative karma when you die with it. So that's the fault. That's the fault. That's why Shakyamuni Buddha gave up the whole thing at the age of 29. So one puts those who don't know what is quality and what is false, what is fault, they think the worldly property and possession and position, they think that's most important. So they think that's a quality you should increase. Increase. Like His Holiness Dalai Lama tells to the Tibetan women, because not many people have cars, and these days they have, but all the wealth of the family is in the woman's neck or on the head. That's jewelry. His Holiness Dalai Lama says, I think we got it wrong, he says. We got it wrong, he says. Have no quality inside, but outside all these stones hanging over this. He says we should put more to the inner beauty than the outer stone beauty. Those Tibetan wearing stones are not just one piece that matches your shirt or anything like that. Huge, You wouldn't believe that there would be a couple of kilos. You hardly can walk when you really don't own them. So he says, why we put so much importance to the ornaments, outer ornaments, without any inner qualities? It's like that. So those who do not know how to distinguish between quality and faults would put much emphasis to gain material possession, which is no other than burden to oneself. So that's a fault. Quality of generosity, tolerance, charity and compassion and understanding and contentment. These things are really more important things. So mistaken between what is quality and what is false. So in this way, one therefore, and then of course one also become mistaken between between what is love and what is not love. Love is actually, real love is those who are suffering and those who have problems should be the objects of our kindness and love. But not love is what one wanted to possess others for one's own advantage. That's not love, that's possession. That's subordination. And so a lot of worldly love is not love. It's a possession, it's subordination, it's a controlling, it's greed and a desire. So what they think is love is actually not love. It's a greed, it's a desire, it's possession, it's subordination. The real love is someone who's suffering, someone who has a lot of suffering in relation to you, maybe angry at you. Showing love to them is real love. Loving someone, wanting to possess them, out of desire, out of possessiveness, is not love. It's attachment. It's a possessiveness. So that's the mistake. Yeah, that's the third one. So I jumped that, and not only I jumped, but the Rongton just goes very bit brief over that. So in this way, one has to know how to know these 5 mistakes, and so then one needs to correct these 5 mistakes. 5 mistakes to bring, 5 failures to bring any benefit has resulted 5 fruitless situations. Yeah, 5 fruitless situations. So fruitlessness, sometimes people feel completely fruitless, pointless. It's because those 5 mistakes has not been corrected. No benefit is brought out by what a thing is, because if ore is not melt, no iron will be produced, even though ore is the cause of iron. Similarly, the mode of reality is emptiness, and there's no self. But if this is not established through study and contemplation, Buddhahood will not be realized due to lack of realization. So that's why what is and what isn't, the first mistake, is one has to realize the emptiness of self. Emptiness of self is not just an ontological, philosophical idea, but actually behaviorally it's selflessness. The more you realize emptiness of self, more it will change behaviorally to become selfless. And if one doesn't do that, then no matter what one studies or listens, if this is not targeted to realize selflessness, emptiness of self, one will not be behaviorally to become selfless, to serve and help other sentient beings, let alone attaining Buddhahood without the realization of selflessness. So, because of the pervasive nature of self-grasping, because meaning self-grasping is so innate, it's not a kind of occasional problem, Short-temperedness may be occasional problem, but all pervasive grasping to I is incessant, It's like a river is always flowing, isn't it? It's actually which you should notice that self-grasping is incessant. It's incessant. If all of a sudden you realize you lost your wallet, straight away. If you realize you lost wallet, is it really the wallet or is it self-grasping? If there's no self-grasping, you know what happens when you lose the wallet? You say, whoever finds the wallet, that will be very good. Instead of worrying, where's my wallet? But thinking my wallet, may my wallet benefit all those others, whoever find it, may they be well, may they happy. I'm not attached to my wallet. There will be more joy in finding my wallet than my misery will worth in looking for it. Very good. So sometimes it's good to test whether how current the self-grasping is. Self-grasping is very, very incessant. It's pervasive. That's why we all pervasive conditioning. Yeah, like if you look at if you look at those leaves, or if you look at the sesame seed, or if you look at the creamed, the milk with creams, unless you churn the cream milk, the butter will not come out. Like that, we all have Buddha nature, but we need to churn the Buddha nature. The Buddha nature is pervasive, as is our self-grasping, But instead of churning the Buddha nature, we are churning the self-grasping. We are churning the self-grasping. So therefore, it's like the iron, or you can make the iron into a sword, or you can make the iron into art, the iron is made into sword, it's like a dangerous kind of weapon. If it's made into art, everybody will rejoice. It's like that. Our very nature has a Buddha nature, meaning kind and compassion. It's made in the nature of all sentient beings. So the Buddha nature is pervasive, as is the self-grasping. But the self-grasping is an antithesis of Buddha nature. When you practice the Buddha nature, self-grasping disappears. It becomes other cherisher of others. When it cherishes others, instead of cherishing one, it cherishes many. So the self-cherishing is transformed into other cherisher. When you cherish others, there's nobody excluded. So the pervasive idea of pervasive nature of the self-grasping could become pervasive nature of the compassion. Instead of thinking of a poor me, just finite self, one is thinking for the benefit of others. So that's why one needs to promote the Buddha nature. But unless we practice the Buddha nature and unless we nurture the Buddha nature, it doesn't become the enlightening qualities. So therefore, no benefit is produced merely by possession of Buddha nature. It's like a poverty-stricken woman who is unaware of the mine under her house. She makes her living by collecting twigs and fetches in the wilderness and sells them, while her own house is situated on a mine. So she needs to have her land on which her house is filled with the gems, but she's not aware of it. So like that, we are like an old woman who doesn't know her plot of land is full of mine. So that mine refers to Buddha nature. So we need to therefore recognize that we have Buddha nature, which is inexhaustible riches, and therefore instead of collecting twigs to make a living, one should dig deep the very soil, and until clairvoyant bhikkhu showed up at her doorstep, when a clairvoyant bhikkhu showed up at her doorstep, and then this monk, what happened? And this monk, asked her some food, and she offered some food that she bought from the selling twigs, selling the twigs, and then the bhikkhu told the woman that she actually has a mine under her house, but he can see through his clairvoyance that her house is situated on a mine. So through his help, she discovered that she has a big hidden treasure under her house. Likewise, we all have the dharmata, the nature of emptiness, and we have the Buddha nature. We have infinite, priceless compassion. So therefore, we need to meet a clairvoyant monk who shows up at our home. Shows a home, and he says that is the teaching. That is this teaching. So Rongton says this is this teaching. This text, perfection of wisdom, is the clairvoyant monk now showing at your doorstep tonight. So we are all very we are all lucky now. We can now dig and dig the soil and discover the amazing. So that's why Rongton's writing is like a spiritual friend who came to introduce to us to this unrecognized, unearthed mind that we are sitting on. So that is called, because of the 5 mistakes, you didn't know what you possess. But by correcting those 5 mistakes, then you will know what you possess, and then and then you will utilize it. Otherwise, otherwise it's like you have seen something, but you didn't benefit from seeing the thing. Yeah. It says that it is like the water in the well, which has become acquainted with. Yeah, yeah. So it's talking about you have to know where the water is. If you know there is a well, that's very good. You always go to the well. The well is not like a river or a fountain. Well is not not a running water tap in your kitchen. Well is not a river, So therefore, you have to find the well. Well is much harder to find than a river or running tap. But once you do find a well, it's always going to be there. So therefore, we need to find what is always there. So we have the Buddha nature at our home. We have the well. We just have to know how to get water from it instead of going for a tap, instead of looking for a river. In the villages, landlocked countries, they always have well. They have well in the old days. Even in Nalanda monastery, some of you have been to India, others have not. You go to the Nalanda monastery, that's very old, built in 2nd century or 3rd century AD. They have amazing wells. They still have water in them, because it's old and no people living there. They don't use. Even in the old days, they made well, and you don't have to go very far because you got the water there. Likewise, this is talking about. Likewise, when you're able to know what you have, that is your own Buddha nature, then you will be able to rely on the well, like a water of the well. If you don't, then you're looking for water somewhere else while ignoring and not finding the well. So we need to look around, look inside. And the last example of this is is that not benefit by knowing things, just by knowing things, And parrot also can chant prayers, but they don't know that they don't have the benefit of knowing the prayers. So therefore, we have to know things which bring benefit. So therefore, when we know these 5 mistakes which we talked about, that is the summation of what constitute the truth of suffering. So that concludes the first and second truth. Now the third truth is of the noble truth of the path. Yeah, noble truth of the path. So noble truth of path is concerning the third noble truth of path. Because usually noble truth is the 4th one, but here in Rongton uses the second as the first and the 4th as the 3rd. So that's why he talks the 4th noble truth as the 3rd, because 3rd is the cause of the 4th. So therefore, 4th is the cause of the 3rd. 3rd is the cessation, isn't it? You can't have cessation without following the path. So he talks the cause first to get the result, cessation. Usually you will find the 3rd noble truth, which is cessation 3rd, and which is the result, and the cause, which is noble truth of the path, as a 4th. Rongton reverses the first 2 and the second 2, reverse that way. So that's why concerning the 3rd truth of the path, the causal condition is the Buddha potential. Yeah. So the here he talks about the conditions, about 4 or 5 different conditions. Causal condition of attaining enlightenment is the Buddha nature. So Buddha nature, and the possessive condition is a spiritual friend. Spiritual friend. Yeah, spiritual friend. We talked a great deal about spiritual friend. enlightened spiritual friend, human spiritual friend, and then most importantly, self-realization spiritual friend. Yeah, we talked about that extensively before already. So here he's repeating that one, that you call possessive conditioning, meaning you have to possess a spiritual friend, enlightened to human, and then yourself, by practicing, you are now, your meditation and your reflection, your thinking, and you're comparing the notes of the teachings, it will give you the self-realization spiritual friend. Because this arises after practicing the meaning of the instructions you heard from the spiritual friend. Yeah. But even if we have spiritual friend, human spiritual friend or enlightened spiritual friend, unless we practice it, we do not realize it. So therefore, the realization of the realization comes from practicing the instruction that we heard. Realization of the nature of the ground is dependent on a spiritual friend. Yeah, so the ground is really, the spiritual friend has to be very, very grounded and motivated and inspired, and inspired in the practice. The practice of the path itself is dependent on oneself. Yeah, practicing of the path is dependent on oneself. Buddha says, even though I show you the path, it's you who has to travel. Yeah, it's like that. Even though we meet an enlightened spiritual friend or human spiritual friend, or we even study, we even read, or whatever, but still, how much of that realization depend on the person who practices themselves. And attainment of result is pretty automatic. Whoever practice get the result, and those who don't practice, the result is not automatic. You go. The primary sufferings are sufferings of old age, birth, sickness, and death. We talked about. To stop birth, karma has to be stopped. Now this is very important. To stop karma, affliction has to be stopped. To stop affliction, self-grasping has to stop. To stop self-grasping, it has to be repelled from where confusion takes place. Yeah, we mistakenly think aggregate as, we confuse thinking aggregate is self. We confuse thinking our actions are self. We blame others as the actions is him. Like father, he's what he did, and that's it. We just blacklist him. We don't think he did anything but that. And we confuse that. When we do that, one has to therefore repel that confusion. The antidote to that confusion is establishing lack of true existence of that. Lack of true existence of that, yeah. But we usually don't think it lacks true existence. We think that is the thing. You can see it. It truly seems to exist independent of it. It is all there, they say. It is a proof is all there as a truly, independently, permanently existing thing. We have this mistaken kind of mistaken kind of awareness. So if we don't do that, the self is so rigid, so innately there. The self may be demolished two ways, from the extremes or from the middle. Yeah. So you can demolish. You can realize the lack of emptiness of self either from the center or from the extreme. So there's two things. So maybe you can start with the extremes. Extremes means periphery. Yeah. Maybe search the self from the periphery. Periphery means the tip of your hair, tip of your hair, all the way down as far as where the hair goes, and then to the skull, and then to the outside the skull, then the shoulders, from the top all the way to the toes. In the West they call tip to toe, top to toe, yeah. From top to toe, you will try to find the self, It's the first examining thoroughly from the top to toe and search exhaustively. If you can find an automatic, independently existing self that is not the label, that is not the concept, that it is independently exists from its own side. Then develop a deep regret when you really look self in the hair. there's only hair. When you look in the nose, there's only nose. There's no self. When you look inside the body, there is all the guts and things. There is no self. So then develop a deep regret how one has mistakenly held a self to be truly existing and real. And when, with the discriminating awareness, then dissect the 5 aggregates. Now this is a meditation, because this is Noble Truth of Path, yeah? This is Noble Truth of Path. Because Perfection of Wisdom's Noble Truth of Path is dissecting the truth of dissecting the aggregates and try to find the self. So, while discriminating the awareness, then dissect the 5 aggregates separately. First, take the form aggregates. by taking all the form, it's actually the 5 aggregates are not dissectable. They are all enmeshed. The word aggregate means enmeshed. All the 5 aggregates are enmeshed, like potato, like mashed potato, butter, cream, the temperature and the potato and all of them mashed together. How could you now unmash? How could you now unmash the butter from the potato, cream from the potato? It's like that. So try to dissect the 5 aggregates separately, split the form aggregate all the way to the tiny subatomic particles. Subatomic particles. In the end, establish that the finest particles are impossible to observe. They're so small, you couldn't find anything in that. The entities of the consciousness can be taken apart as 3 perceptions. 3 perception, 5 consciousness. We have the 5 consciousness, of course, 5 sense consciousness, 51 aggregates of volition. So now there are lots of, these are all very abhidharmically, very detailed kind of dissection of your whole psychophysical organ from your form aggregate down to the 51 volition and 8 consciousness. So, of course, we won't go into them, but just take a notice of them. These are then classified into moments and phases of arising, abiding, and cessation. How many of these in the body that aggregates we look at, how many of them were arose and then abide and then stay, then didn't stay and ceased, ceased. Like if you look at the surface of skin, it was smooth and young only so maybe 10 years ago, or maybe some people 20 years ago. And how long it developed, took time to develop that smooth skin, then how long it stayed the smooth skin, and how quickly it disappeared and become wrinkled up. So when you look at that, these are then classified into moments. They are momentary. They are time lapse. The time passes, and then during that there's a lot of changes goes through the 5 aggregates. Phases of arising, abiding. These are then ultimately classified into partless moments. In the end, one realizes that apocalyptic moment is also not observed. Thus decide that there's nothing whatsoever that can be grasped as an object or self, a self that truly exists. Now, this is the noble truth of the path. Path means we have to walk the path. We have to walk the path by subjectively meditating on where is me. Where is me? I'm the psychologist. I'm the administrator. I'm the CEO. Where's the CEO in the body? Where is the CEO in the snots? Where is the CEO in the fingers? Like the Talibans. Well, the Talibans walked into Kabul. They couldn't find the president. It's like that. They couldn't find it. They couldn't find any enemy also. They couldn't find any enemy because the Americans left long time ago and the Australians also leaving. Now 20 years mistake, they now realize it's a mistake. They only now there's a mistake in the first place. What a waste of all of that. I'm stretching the example here. So there's no truly existing problem or anything that they did, anything in the last 220 years. It was a complete waste. Maybe Australian lost 40, 50 men, I'm told. Then they realize, what did they die for? Nothing. Yeah, totally, completely. What a waste. Same, that is an example. Or consider this body as a rainbow in the sky. Just maybe instead of thinking, because you couldn't find by the time you dissect it into molecules and subatomic particles you couldn't see, but at least rainbow you can see. Maybe you can just consider your body, the self, as a rainbow. Then the body is in the form of rainbow also disappears like a rainbow in the sky. Yeah. Even rainbow is not there to be observed. Then consider the mind also become inseparable with the empty sky. Now this is meditation on emptiness. Yeah, this is meditation on emptiness of self that we may have identified as identical to the body. This practice will help to establish. Why is the Rongton talking about this? This practice of self-dissection will help to establish lack of self to grasp to as an object, and therefore able to reject the independent, truly, inherently existing self, and therefore reduce self-grasping. And then what is mistaken as mistaken. Yeah? What is unimportant as unimportant. Yeah. What is not true as not true. Yeah? And all of those 5 mistakes we talked about will be then qualified by this self-analysis. Again, establish that all external objects are by nature not truly produced. Not truly produced means not truly existing. Yeah? Of course, they are produced. Truly produced means people think something produced this from that. So that's why here we are talking a little bit about the philosophical understanding of how to dissect how to refute the wrong extreme views. Examine whether all the appearance, such as form, etc., came into existence either from itself or from the other, or from both, or without a cause. Yeah. So these are the four extremes. If it arises from itself, does it arise from the existing self or non-existent self? Because if it arises from itself, it doesn't need to arise again. It already exists. Yeah. If one thinks it arises from existing self, there's no need to arise, for it already exists. If it produced from an already existing thing, then it would produce ceaselessly. It will produce ceaselessly. Why we don't have to get all the raw materials for the factory. They just keep producing constantly. It doesn't need any raw materials because it's a ceaseless self-production. But yet people think, oh, you did it to me. We think that they truly independently did by themselves. Things are produced, but not produced the way you think they did. Things are produced dependently from many causes and conditions, like the telephone, like the hearing, like the telephone cord and the plug and the electricity and everything. It doesn't produce just from one. It just doesn't produce like this mouse is here. This mouse is here. If I'm trying to use it with this mouse, if this mouse is not connected to the computer, even if it's connected, if the battery is dead, however many connected, nothing. Yeah? So like that, lots of causes of condition has to be assembled. So these multiple causes of condition means it is not independent, inherently existing thing. So the noble truth of path in the perfection wisdom is meditation on emptiness. Is this kind of reflection on empty of self-production. Empty of self-production. You wouldn't believe, all of a sudden you have this understanding. then usually you wouldn't hesitate to blame somebody or blame yourself, and then become very angry, thinking it's they did it all by themselves. But the moment you have this, why we have to talk about lack of self-production, lack of independent production, is so that we can practice kindness for a sake, for a change. Not to think like this mistakenly. Because we've been mistaken so many times, it's not easy to not mistake. But if we try very genuinely speaking, next time you might see something looks like somebody did it, but you wouldn't say they did it, because it's not like that. Why? It's not self-production. If not self-production, it is not independent produced by them. Particularly if you're not there, you wouldn't even notice any production whatsoever. So you're completely part of it, depending which view you will adopt. The mistaken view as a correct view, or correct view as a mistaken view. That's the only difference. So now we might have an opportunity to actually see mistaken view as a mistaken view, and then shut your mouth. So you say, oh, thank goodness I didn't say it this time, because you realize it is you think it's truly produced by them. And we wouldn't dare to point a finger to somebody. We will smile. We will grin. There it goes again. Nearly I did it, but this time I was able to recognize the mistaken view as a mistaken view. And so when you arrest the mistaken view as a mistaken view, wow, then you have the correct view, Then you know what is the important view and what is the mistaken view. When you do that, now you're on the path, noble truth of the path. Why? You have stopped the suffering from escalating. You have stopped the reaction and overreaction that was about to consummate. But you saved. You practice self-control. You practice behavior control. You practice perception control. You practice volition control. Amazing. All the 5 aggregates are now not aggregating. They're all dissected. You cancelled it. You cancelled the project. That is the diamond cutter. Diamond cutter, they call it, this sutra sometimes. It cut through everything. It's cut through the ego, and it's cut through its wrong perception, because it now has ability to recognize the imperception as imperception. Very good. This time, he is wearing his contact lens. Now he can see. That's right. Contact lens. Put on the contact lens. Put on the contact lens of perfection of wisdom, and then you will be able to practice the noble truth of the path. When you're practicing the noble truth of the path, you feel light, You don't feel the weight of the sorrow, Because if something produced from non-existing thing, a non-existing cause can not produce a thing, If this mouse can work from non-existing thing, then it can produce without anything, No, it needs things. It needs the wire, it needs the correct connection, it needs the battery, and I also need to point the mouse to the right place, by the way. Instead of saying enlarge, if I say delete, I will delete the thing, So like that, it cannot be produced from nothing, non-existing. It is not production if no result is produced. Yeah? You can't say it was produced if no result is produced. If one thinks it is produced from other things, if it is produced from permanent thing or impermanent thing. Now this is the question, whether if something is produced, whether it's a permanent things produced, production cannot occur for permanent things. Permanent things are not produced. It doesn't need to be produced. Because production is for impermanent things. Permanent things doesn't need to be produced, And that's why there is nothing that is permanent. This is very good. Buddha said this is nothing that's permanent because everything is produced. Permanent is not acceptable as the cause of production because permanent things does not produce. That's why they say, when they say eternal God, we can't. It's internally contradictory to say God produced us, God created us. Because God is always sitting like this. He can't do anything to produce. If he do anything, he's not impermanent, isn't it? So no, he's not there. He's off the seat. He went to the farm to produce human beings. See, it's so simple logic, is it? Not as a very complicated idea. Permanent is not acceptable as a cause of production. That's why it's not because Buddhism was anti-God, but people's definition of God is it's eternal, is permanent. If production occurs from other and from other than an impermanent thing, is the result produced simultaneously or not simultaneously? So if productions come from impermanent things, it is produced simultaneously or not simultaneously, meaning it is gradually. Say there's this popcorn. I have this popcorn here. If this popcorn produced simultaneously like that, was there a time that spent under the ground as a not even a corn? Yes. So it went through many changes, poor thing, and then it's parched. Now it's parched. It wasn't parched. It wasn't called popcorn, so it was a non-popcorn. It was a non-popcorn. It become popcorn. And particularly if it's popcorn, it's not going to stay a strong popcorn if it goes in my mouth. How long would popcorn last as a popcorn? Not very long, is it? Particularly goes into our mouth. That's the end of popcorn. It's the beginning of something else. So just watch out what will become what. Popcorn doesn't produce popcorn, okay? And then you will be full of popcorn. Once you put one popcorn in the mouth, you don't need to put other popcorns because you'll be full of popcorns. So popcorn ceases to be popcorn as soon as it goes in the mouth. Popcorn never keep producing popcorn. Yet human beings' wrong perception. They see the father who made one mistake, they still always keep thinking of him as truly existing one who did this and always producing mistake all the time. See, this is the cause of suffering. This mistaken thinking he is truly existing, his volition is truly existing, independently existing, and he's identical to the mistake. That's our enmity. Our enmity comes from this wrong view. He doesn't have to do anything wrong. We have wrong conception. When we have wrong conception, someone will accuse you something when you haven't done anything. Why? Because of their wrong conception. You don't have to do anything wrong. So that's why all of this suffering is caused by wrong conception. That's why Noble Truth of Path, we have to correct the wrong views by checking how things are produced. Simultaneous production from a producer is not acceptable. Yeah. If production occurs not simultaneously, when the result is produced, the cause would have been ceased. Yeah? Yeah? So, when the cause is produced, the result is not produced, Because, of course, when I'm eating popcorn, it doesn't quite become shit. Hopefully not. Yeah, sorry about that analogy, but you have to make some sense of these things, you know. I mean, Buddhist texts don't say use this analogy, popcorn and becoming shit. It uses this term. He says simultaneous production from produce is not acceptable. If production occurs not simultaneously, then the result is produced. When the result is produced, the cause would have been seized. Yeah. Cause would have been seized. When the cause is produced, the result is not produced. Therefore, the other material does not exist. The other causal material cannot produce other resultant material. So, meaning other cannot produce the other. You know. So that's a good. They're refuting that wrong view of production from self and production from the other. And then third one is. Also, it is not acceptable that production occurs from both. Both means self and other. Like two hands, you know. They say it needs two hands to clap, but it doesn't. If this hand is this hand, the other hand, so this and the other hand clap, it should be clapping all the time. There's no. So therefore, both hands does not clap. It has more than the two hands that does the clapping, you know. So, it is not acceptable that production occurs from both. If the cause and result comprise of one material, it contradicts that they are separate entities, you know. If they are separate entities, it contradicts that they are of one nature. The production from both is not acceptable, since production from self and other have been rejected. They both have been already rejected. So therefore, you couldn't have if the self is produced by itself and other couldn't produce other, then how could the self and other could produce? Yeah, could produce. The production from both cannot be possible. Also, it is impossible that production occurs without a cause. Now, this is the fourth one. This is the fourth extreme. Yeah. So if it's not self-production, other production, and not both production, then does it mean the production occurs without a cause? There is no validated production occurring from no cause that has ever been observed anywhere and any time. Therefore, the production is observed occurring from cause. Yeah. So usually people say that's the reason they think production is caused solely by one cause. However, since production from itself and others have been rejected, there is no true production even if it appears as there is production. Yeah, production is there, but not self-production or other production or both production or causeless production. Therefore, one should realize that the inner mind is like empty appearance, like the sky, and all other external objects are like empty of true existence, like illusions. So even this cup is produced. Even this cup is produced from clay, because cup is other than clay, isn't it? So you can say why, the cup is produced by an other than cup, you know. If the cup can be produced other than the cup, such as clay, then this could also produce cup, because this is other than the cup. So because if anything that is other than the cup produce cup, then anything that is other could produce infinitely. Almost anything can produce infinitely, because it's produced by other than itself. Yeah. The purpose of this analysis is help us to analyze. When we see something is wrong, we think he did it or I did it, and that kind of views. We are not able to see the interdependence of all things. When you see the interdependence of all things, then you will be speechless. You will be what they call inexpressible, because you can't say he did it or he didn't. You can't say I didn't. You might have said so, because it's interdependent. I mean, if I have to get used to thinking I have an audience, because it's, I don't know, those people who present on the radio, I don't know, they are really talkative and that's just in a little room by themselves. But they have these radio sort of transmission sign, and they know they got a lot of listeners or something, and then they feel they're, otherwise, are they talking because they're talking, or they're talking because someone is listening? So are they talking because they're talking, or are they talking because someone listening is making them to talk? So that's very interesting, yeah? Very interesting. So there is no real, any production that we mistakenly think is by him or by them or not by me at all. Lots of people think, it's all you did it. You did this to me. I had nothing to do with it. And people really red-faced argue like this as if they got the right view. And you couldn't believe the other one thinks the same. Other one thinks we are completely wrong. And he's not very far from right. But then he thinks he's completely right. So because of these kind of, both are mistaken. Both are completely mistaken and deluded, and thinking they're right, thinking they're correct, thinking that is true, thinking that is important. That's the 5 mistakes we were talking about earlier. That's why the understanding of, if the mind is naturally empty, one may ask then why it is that there are infinite virtues, non-virtues, and indifferent conceptions. So we have virtues, non-virtues, and so neutral conception. You can say, this listening to the Dharma is very good. It helps me. So maybe if you think like this, virtues. If you think, no, I have heard this many times. How many times we have to listen to this too many times? It's just, I'd rather do something else. Yeah, I'm sure sometimes this thought comes to people, and then they're called a non-virtuous thought, by the way. That's a non-virtuous thing. That's a non-virtuous. Truly existing non-virtuous thoughts. Sorry, I'm joking. Of course, it's not truly existing at all. It's totally dependent. But then we might have neither virtue nor the non-virtue, indifferent, like that. For example, just as there are cloud or fog or mist or lightning and rainfall in the sky, mind, although is by nature empty, all forms appear. The fog appears, cloud appears. We distinguish fog from mist, cloud from mist. It's amazing. When I was studying geography in Nepal, when a high school boy, they talk about fog and mist and cloud. I said, where is the fog? I thought cloud was enough. Cloud will do for me. But until you see what's a fog, fog has to be so low on the ground. But they don't call them cloud, So scientists have to distinguish what is definition of fog, what is definition of mist, what is definition of a cloud, and so on. But neither the fog nor mist are fog to the not fog. Mist is not to the mist. Mist doesn't exist from the mist. Fog doesn't exist from mist. And the geography teacher says, he's got a lot to say about fog and mist. Why is one and why is not? Because that's what his subject, So he's got to make a living out talking the difference about that, But of course, if there was a fog listening to it, the fog says, what the hell he's talking about? I can become a mist too. I can raise up in the sky and become part of the cloud too. He doesn't know I'm empty of a fog. So when we objectively look at phenomena, it seems they exist independently. It seems that your father is really aggressive or alcoholic or whatever. And people really think that their view of him is what is not, we think what he is. What he is, we think he is not. He's been kind, he's been generous, he worked very hard. We don't think he did. It's amazing. And if he did a few mistakes, we think that's he is. That's what he is. and then put a big blacklist, black kind of blacklist him. And then always a problem with the father figures, ever since, until they fix that with others. Wherever they go, anybody father like, they just remember him again. Why? This is the burden we were talking about. Unimportant things we think is important, and they always tell the narrative of their poor me, I suffer like this, as if they are truly themselves permanent. The father's dead a long time ago. They're still talking about what the father did. Goodness gracious, give him a break. People don't, because they're so self-grasping to the notion of I and a me, mistakenly identify with aggregate, with feelings, with imperception as a perception, and not realizing imperception as imperception, wrong opinion as a wrong opinion, judgment as a judgment, we think is correct. Because of that, we suffer. So the truth of the path is how to break them, how to pulverize them, how to tear them apart, and then see the emptiness. The Taliban couldn't find anyone in power. When they walked into Afghanistan, there's nobody there. They thought they were going to put a stiff opponent. There's no one there. They realized there's empty of any existing enemy. It's like that. Yeah, they don't really exist at all. So it's all mistaken. Just as clouds and so on appear in the sky but dissolve in the sky, so will all things will dissolve in the sky of emptiness of understanding. If you have the understanding of emptiness, then that is big enough a sky in which clouds also disappear. Sky never complains, there's too many clouds here, I have to get out of here. So that's why meditation on emptiness has to be like you should anchor your mind in the sky, No matter what conception arises in the mind, they will all dissolve in the very mind that understand. The perfection wisdom says, this is Rongton quoting versified perfection wisdom text, when all the compounded and uncompounded phenomena and virtue and non-virtue are dissolved by wisdom, there is an excellent conduct of the perfection wisdom. So the perfection wisdom is that state which sees the emptiness of all virtue, non-virtue, good, bad, high, low, us, other, all of these is able to dissolve everything. The sky is able to see the emptiness of all clouds, and these clouds-like conditions manifest, but they came out of nowhere, and they will also abide nowhere, and they disappear nowhere. And the clouds doesn't say, "Oh, I'm so glad the clouds got disappeared, gotten rid of it down the pipe." No, the clouds never went anywhere. Clouds never came from anywhere. Clouds never stayed there anywhere. From the sky's point of view, there wasn't a talk about clouds. So if we have our mind, if we can emulate the mind as a sky, which is the really vast, expansive, indescribable, unthinkable, unceasing. Sky never ceases, Your mind is like that. Also, the same text says, as the bodhisattvas observe the perfection of wisdom. I mean, we could be doing that just now, and any time, any time is free. You don't have to be listening to this. you could be doing that any time. It's completely free. You don't have to try hard in Tuesday night. Sky is always sky. You don't have to have Tuesday night sky. Tuesday night there's a bit of sky. Other times there's clouds all over the place. It's not like that. So our mind is capable. That the Bodhisattva observes the perfection of wisdom, that all phenomena are by nature perfectly pure and inherent part of the sky. They neither observe person nor any phenomena. This is the excellent conduct of the perfection of wisdom. So they say, does the Buddha see a Buddha? No, they say. Buddha see no Buddha. Does the Buddha see another person? No. Only the deluded people calls aggregate John, Peter, friend, enemy, and deluded people discriminate clouds, give names to clouds, and they freeze them. These clouds, my clouds, your clouds, and they don't see the emptiness of that. In this way, after the wisdom realizing conception of realizing emptiness of phenomena and emptiness of person has completely cut through the conception of grasping at object as truly existing and concept of grasping self as truly existing, there will dawn the untraceable sky. Untraceable sky. This is very important. Sky doesn't start here and finish here. Anthropologists, archaeologists, you can see they're dating bricks, they're dating some furnitures. I haven't seen anybody dating sky, And that would be good, Nobody have tried to date sky yet. Why? It's beyond. They can't date sky. It's incredibly difficult to date sky because you can't measure. Yeah, sky like non-conceptual consciousness. Meditators, good meditators who have a lot of understanding of this nature, and then deliberately anchor their mind in the state of this expansive nature of the mind, unbounded, infinite, perfect luminosity, without having to do anything. This is what we call the non-dual. From deep within your mind, you can experience this. This is the noble truth of path. Noble truth of path is meditating. They call noble truth of path usually start with the right view. That's exactly this what I'm talking about, right view. Recognizing 4 or 5 mistakes, and then and knowing how the mistakes has been made, and then being able to stop the grasping to one thing being created by itself or other or neither or non-cause. Once you understand that, there will be this amazing, I would say, revelation of setting the mind free of any wrong conceptions. And this kind of noble truth of path meditation has to be encouraged. And because remember, this is perfection. This is the topic of perfection wisdom, is how do you experience perfection wisdom? And what is perfection wisdom? And it is said it is when you actually are experiencing the perfection wisdom, it is indescribable. You can't say the sky is this old, it is yellow, it is red, it's situated in this latitude and longitude. You can't say that. Sky is basically universal. And our mind, in its ability to fathom this realization, perfection, wisdom can then stay in that realization of the right view. And then with the pity and compassion to one's past and all sentient beings who languishing in samsara by these 5 fundamental mistakes. And then whenever sentient beings falter and waver, you always have the power to transmit this compassion, while yourself never shaken at all, because you're always in that state of perfection, wisdom, meditative state. The sky, the clouds will come in the sky. The clouds come in the sky. Only human beings talk there as clouds, but sky never sees clouds. Because sky got no eye, The sky got no ear, remember? Sky got no nose, Sky got no perception, remember? Sky's got no feeling, remember? So that's why no eye, no ear, no nose. All the 26 no's in Heart Sutra then have starting to really echo some kind of resonate what the meaning of perfection wisdom is. There will arise an experience of non-duality from deep within. There is no activity that is better or choosing. You don't have to choose activities. Your meditative state of perfection wisdom is indescribable. It's so profound and so deep. And you can't begin here and finish there. It is not beginnable. You don't say, I have been starting to do meditate on perfection wisdom recently. It's so good. Only people who don't realize it says those things. Only who don't realize this emptiness, they say, oh, they realize emptiness. Wow, it's so good, you should try. It's beyond such expression, beyond such assessment. And this is the perfection wisdom. This is the mother that gave birth to all the enlightened ones. Only by conceiving this realization does one become enlightened. She is the mother. The mother is the one who is pregnant to give birth. So wait until you conceive these ideas and wisdom and understanding filled with a lot of compassion to our past, to our fathers, to our others, that we previously have so many imperception and wrong views, thinking it's truly produced by them, and so on and so forth, lumping them with the action, lumping them with our perception, when actually they are all mistaken views of one's own wrong conception to do with self-grasping. Hence the compassion that one can practice to one's past and all other sentient beings are endless. There is compassion isn't some 9 to 5 type of thing. Compassion is timeless, beyond space, beyond knowledge. And that's what the meditation. This is the meditation in which Buddha observed for 49 days after his enlightenment. From his own assessment as an enlightened one, it wasn't expressible. But then he had to spoon feed his disciples, sentient beings who didn't have such emotional and spiritual fitness to understand emptiness. Therefore, he didn't teach saying things are empty. He says things are suffering, things have cause, things have this, things have this. He said there is. So first part of the Buddha's sermon was always there is. And then later on he said there is nothing. And people say, what the hell he's talking about? There he says this and this, now they said no. So the turning of the wheel of Dharma, first they said there is noble truth of suffering, there is noble truth of path, there is noble truth of cessation, there is noble truth of path, there's a truly existing path. Of course there's no truly existing path, but he doesn't want to say there is no truly existing path at the beginning. so, so of course, we too, of course, don't say that to other people, because if you say there is no path, people will mistake it. They can't get it. It's because they can't understand this nothing business. So this is where the perfection wisdom in this is we are talking in the context of the third noble truth of the path. Yeah, noble truth of path. I think let's meditate a little bit of the time on the very discerning nature of the perfection of wisdom, just as a bodhisattva observes that all phenomena, good and bad, self and other, are all by nature part of that unbounded sky. Therefore, one doesn't observe anything in the sky as this or that, or person or phenomena, yellow or red, male or female, good or bad. The perfection of wisdom discerning bodhisattva has the conduct to abide in that very observation. So before we conclude here, I would like to say something. As you have all been studiously attending these sessions last few months, over two terms plus this one, and of course we'll definitely have another term. So this all of the four terms of this year will be covered, taken up by this. And since we have been very committed to attend these teachings and study together, I thought it would be a good exercise to make all of you to go through the text, understand the structure and contents of the text, and make a preparation to do a little presentation in the summer. So we'll probably make at least a full weekend, if not maybe more than full weekend. Have everyone who, of course, I'm not going to be seeing who's everyone, who's not everyone. If somebody want to be one who want to present, they're all asked to present one. And why can't not present? Because I have sent you the text so far we covered, and we'll send you the rest of the text as we progress. So by the end of the term, you would have the full text before you, and particularly having had the benefit. And because there's so much part in the text, you can see how Rongton has been weaving his text to deliver these teachings. So it will be good for each of you to do a little bit of particular revision of the part of the text, and then we will have each of you to do a presentation. And this presentation will be given to not just among us. We will invite general other public through most likely on Zoom, and in the summer over 2-3 days. And it would be a very good exercise for everybody to do a little bit of reading of the text and try to choose a topic, and then try to do a little write-up and presentation. So I thought I will let you know about that tonight, and then you can start to think about it in the text so far, because there's so much that we have covered, and so much there are yet to be covered as we starting to cover the chunky bit of the actual gist of the text. So please put some clouds or sky. Put some sky for it, okay? Put some sky for it, and so you're listening and contemplation, because I know that quite a lot of you, we know so many years, have been very studious, long-term student of Dharma and practicing, and of course in these kind of classes mainly has been just me talking and not much interaction. But it would be good to see you guys, your understanding, and then choose certain topics of those texts, and we can discuss individually if people want to discuss with me, because you have the text so far, and next week or the week after I will actually send you the main outline of the whole text so that you can choose. So I thought of giving you that task in your mind. So sorry about that if you didn't expect any, but no obligation, but totally out of sky, totally out of goodwill. I'm sure everybody can do that. Thank you very much, everyone. Any comments or questions there before we close? If there are, please put your... Yeah? Oh, we well. I'll ask Kath to send to you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I'll ask you to ask her to send you the text of the first 2 terms, and then when we finish this term, I send the text of this term when we finish the term. So you haven't received the first 2 terms. I'll ask Kath to do that.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Of course. Anybody who haven't received text, please let us know, because Kath is working very hard to send to everyone. But anybody who's missing, you definitely get the text, because this text has been my translation for quite a number of years, and maybe end of this reading and going to class, maybe the book, it can be maybe publishable. Also, Doug also having. Kath, can you tell? Doug, both Doug and Lin Hua. What's Doug's surname? Yeah. Doug Ram, is it? Doug Ran, Rann. If you, yeah, Rann. Doug, if you, I'm sure Kath has your email address. If not, please send your email address to Kath, the secretary at Sakyat.
I can only send text out to people who've registered, because I don't have other people's email addresses. And so if you want to email the secretary, if you haven't got them, then I can send it to you, because I don't have an email address. But people who are doing it on Facebook and on YouTube, I don't know your email addresses. I don't know you're there.
No, these two are here in person, Kath.
Yeah. I've got their email addresses.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah.
And I've only got. Did you enroll register last term and the term before? No, I missed it. So then I realised why I have the text. Yeah. That's why you haven't got the text. I didn't realise. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
That would be the same for me too, I think.
Sorry, Doc. Can you repeat
I
that?
think that would be the same for me. I don't think I registered in the first term.
Okay. Anyway, if Kath has your email now, she will send.
Yes, I've got.
No.
I've got you now.
No problem. No.
Thank you.
Yeah. Leng Hua?
May I make a donation for the text?
No need. This text is completely free. It's emptiness. Emptiness costs nothing.
Thank you.
No, we haven't published this. Yeah.
All the sessions are on YouTube, so you can catch up with them then.
Yeah.
Although the text isn't divided into sections to tell you what's taught on each evening, it is all there.
Yeah, that's right. So those who have time, particularly during lockdown time, if you wanted to catch up with the previous two terms, they're both clearly marked. They're all in the YouTube. When you watch the first YouTube, the second one automatically shows up. So YouTube is very bodhisattvic in that regard. It's always available at your disposal. So that's very good. Thank you very much. Let's do the dedication of merits, everybody. Please stay safe and be kind to yourself and others who haven't got these ideas. Choedak Mahayana Buddhist Courage Manjushin Asama Trabadradilava Follow Awade Hezabo Ajade Dege Ode Mere Mede Salem Bodhichitta Chebe Vedana Yadanza Veda Spembo Medengri Freely Vedadi Generation. Thank you. See you next week. Take care.